Hi everyone, it's Christina here at the Castaway Kitchen, and today I want to talk to you about my why. I often forget to repeat this, and I think the reason I don't is because I truly believe that part of healing is addressing trauma, and my why has been very traumatic in my life, so I find it difficult to talk about. But um, I think it's time to share the story again and in this video so it's easy for people to consume, and I hope that it reaches those who need to hear it. So for those who don't know, I was diagnosed when I was about 13 years old with a skin condition called hidradenitis suppurativa. This is an autoinflammatory skin condition which manifests on the body in areas usually where there's a concentration of lymph nodes, so underarms, inner thigh, groin, buttocks area, under the breast. Some people also can get it on their back, their neck, or even their face, although it's less common in those areas. The most common areas are the underarms or inner thigh, groin area. Because of that, it's something that most people don't talk about. They don't share with people, even their doctors. And because of this, there's actually quite I really think that the numbers of saying like how many people get it, they say now it's like 1% of the population. I think it's more than that. I think a lot of people don't seek help, even from doctors, um, because they feel ashamed or they're confused at what it is. So a few clarifications for those who don't know. It is not contagious. It is not an STD. It is not because you're dirty or lack of hygiene, and it is not because you are overweight. Although those are things that were told to me that I needed to lose weight and clean and be cleaner when I was a 13-year-old girl going to a doctor to get help for this. So uh, enter the trauma. And of course, dealing with wearing certain clothes like shorts and bathing suits, dating, whatever, growing up in Miami, it was hard. I had this condition full blown for 18 years, and it's extremely painful. You get abscesses and boils, um, and often there's tunneling. So depending on what stage you are, some people just get like hard lumps, pea-sized lumps under the skin. Sometimes then it evolves into these. They can get softer and larger, and they can open and seep. Or drain, and oftentimes the draining can last a long time, and wounds don't heal, so there's a susceptibility for infection. Um, and when there's the tunneling, you can kind of get these clusters. So it's like under the skin, there's like, you get, there's all these different boils or abscesses or like large, kind of like cystic pimples, let's say, and they have these tunnels that connect. And so it can be very difficult to deal with for several reasons. One being that it's excruciatingly painful, two being that it's in difficult areas. So it's hard to dress these areas. Bandages that work, sometimes you have to keep things bandaged for so long, even that can then start causing irritation. Keeping these, if you have open wounds for that long, dealing with that, keeping it from not getting infection, it can be very complicated. So I dealt with this for 18 years, and after I had my son, and while I was breastfeeding him, it began to manifest under my breast as well. So after having it for so long, it started spreading, and that, I think, for me was a very low point in my health, in my life, emotionally. Postpartum depression. I had some anxiety. I was not sleeping. My diet had gone to crap. I was eating a lot of sugar to cope with the exhaustion and the demand of nursing this child. Um, it was it's hard. And I have a hard time reliving those moments and talking about them, which is why I don't discuss my condition that much, because I have it in remission, and I don't long and I don't, it's not my condition, it's a condition, and it affected my body, and it no longer does. However, it is definitely a big reason for it's why the Castaway Kitchen exists. It's why I do what I do. It is why I enrolled in the Nutrition Association program. It is why I write cookbooks, because when I discovered that food impacted the way this condition manifested in my body, it was an extremely liberating moment, because up until then, I just thought it was out of my control, that I was completely unlucky, that I was cursed, plagued, I don't know. And then when I realized there's something I can do about this, because for decades, the antibiotics, the harsh cleansing and soaps, the cortisol steroid kind of creams, none of that worked. And I was miserable and helpless, and I had all but given up. And then I discovered food as medicine. And then I learned about inflammation and how it works, and the roles that blood sugar regulation play, and how stress not only affects blood sugar regulation but the gut integrity. And I learned how all the proton pump inhibitors and antacids I took in my 20s had affected my stomach acid, my digestion, and how that then had a ripple effects to my gut health, and how it all compounded stress from my childhood and chronic antibiotic use and all these symptoms that I lived with, from chronic constipation to ear, nose, and throat infections, and bouts and bouts of respiratory infections, and just chronic antibiotic use, and fatigue and pain and depression and ADHD. And it was all connected, and my family's history of autoimmune disease. And while HS isn't exactly an autoimmune disease, it's an autoinflammatory condition. It does have autoimmune components to it. But I have tested positive for the anti-nuclear antibody. And oftentimes Hidradenitis Suppurativa can also manifest along with rheumatoid arthritis and psoriasis or eczema. And so it doesn't necessarily come alone. So you can have Hidradenitis Suppurativa and other autoimmune diseases as well. And I get so many messages from people who have their first diagnosis. They just left the doctor and they were told they have Hidradenitis Suppurativa, or they were told they have Hashimoto's or rheumatoid arthritis, or I don't know, another autoimmune disease, and they feel completely helpless. And it can feel helpless because, unfortunately, there isn't a manual. There is no cure-all. There is no one method that cures us all, right? It has to be this journey of self-discovery and understanding how your body works, because each of our histories and how long you've had this condition and your medical history and your stress level, it all plays into how you're going to heal your body. And I kind of ran around like a chicken with my head cut off for a while, kind of like Goldilocks of all the protocols, and just eliminating stuff and taking notes and keeping diaries and doing stuff. And I did get in remission, but it's been extremely difficult, and it's been a long journey, and there was a lot of uncertainty, and I definitely messed up a lot of times. But then when I finished my nutritional therapy program, it made sense. All the things that did work, now I know why they worked, and and I realized that there's an order to the way that the body heals, and there's a reason that blood sugar regulation is so important, and why omega-6, omega-3 fatty acid balance is so important, especially when you have an autoinflammatory condition, and how digestion is like where it all starts. Because if your stomach, if the first parts of digestion, parasympathetic state, being relaxed and eating and properly digesting your food so that it doesn't damage your gut, and then from there, so your gut health, so your gut integrity is intact, and your microbiome, it all compounds. And so I want you to know that you can do it, that if you don't want to go the traditional route, because believe me, I was offered all those things, surgery, birth control, Humira. And I knew that a lot of these things wouldn't work for me, and that my body wouldn't do well with them. And I wanted to do it on my own. I wanted true freedom from disease. I truly believe food is the way, and stress management and addressing trauma and letting go of anger and resentment because of this condition, and finding peace with my body, although there are parts of it that I will never love, like my scars. They're not going anywhere. But I don't hate them. I don't love them. I'm neutral. There's so many layers here, but I wanted to make this video to let you know that you're not alone, that you have the power, and all you need is the tools and the dedication. And you can achieve anything you want, even ridding your body of hidradenitis suppurativa, and it is possible. My blog has hundreds of free recipes and blog posts and resources, all dedicated to healing through food. I offer one-on-one nutritional coaching, and of course my books. And I think my second book is essentially like if you'd work with me for 3 months, but instead you have me in your house every single day. My next book, and it's a lot cheaper than working with me, is a resource that I wrote specifically for those who want to heal their bodies through healthy food, real food, and healthy habits, because it's going to be different for all of us. But when you know how it works, you can know how it works for you. So please visit thecastawaykitchen.com for free resources. Sign up for my newsletter, listen to my podcast, Bodywise Podcast. It's all linked on the blog. I want to be a beacon of light. I want to be inspirational. Even if you don't buy any of my books or work with me one-on-one, I want my free resources to be something that you use to find comfort in knowing that me and hundreds, maybe thousands of people have healed their bodies of autoimmune disease, and even something as complex and difficult and traumatizing as hidradenitis suppurativa, and that you can too. My next book does come out March 10th, 2020, and it covers digestion and hydration and mineral balance and blood and fatty acid balance and blood sugar regulation. And all the recipes are free of trigger foods that I have learned that are common for people with autoimmune disease, and specifically hidradenitis suppurativa, like nightshades, which are my biggest trigger food, and many others in the community. But again, there is no black and white manual. There is your body, your history, your trauma, and how you work through it to heal. So please, no, don't give up, don't despair, because there is a way and you can do it, and it is possible. And I really truly feel that it's like a tripod. Food and lifestyle food is just one big leg. It's an important leg, but it's just one leg. Addressing trauma is another big one. And the last one is lifestyle, which managing stress, getting rid of toxic materials in your environment and toxic relationships. And I really want to help you with all three of those, because